Alright, so this is my third speech on gun control. I talked the first time about the background of it and how it came about. And then the second one was about two different sides of it, and now I'm going to focus on my side. But here's my question again. Would it be dutiful if the US government removed the unalienable rights to own guns from the citizens of its country? And once again, here's the Second Amendment, because that's still a big thing in my speeches. It's a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So I think that actually applies to the US citizens today. So and I believe it's not a governmental right. It's not something the government should be able to define and restrict because of tyranny. Why was it created in 1776? Well, actually it was written in 1789 because it was added to the Bill of Rights. But why was guns back then such a big thing? And this is about the French Revolution. For those of you who don't know what it is, it was after the Revolutionary War in America. France was having issues with money, whereas it was from aiding the US to also having a lot of taxes passed, and then they had a famine. And so they had like no money at the time, and the people ended up having to eat grass. That's how poor they were. And the people in charge of that time, it was Marie Antoinette or something like that, and then her husband, I guess. But they were in charge at the time, and they didn't know like anything that was going on. And so the people of France had to go and they wanted change, because obviously they were being oppressed with tyranny, and it was called the Reign of Terror, as I mentioned a little bit farther down, just because of how crazy everything was. And they had to go, and they literally had to bring pitchforks and stuff to then go to a place to get gunpowder, and then get guns, so then they could fight back and flip their government. And also at the time, I don't remember if I put it in there, but the government was also killing a lot of people using the guillotine, and so they were all scared. But the people of France had to become a militia. They had to fight together, and they became a private militia, which is a militia that is not governed. It's not like by the government, it's the people itself. And so I believe that the people of the US, the citizens of every country, are the private militia. Now here I'm focusing on the US, but we are the private militia. And so at any point, if the US starts being tyrannical, starts pushing things that are against us, such as they start taxing us heavily or stuff like that, as we saw in the Revolutionary War, that's tyrannical, and that's why our rights shouldn't be influenced by them. But as I talked here, I did mention in a previous speech that the idea of us being the private militia, the people are governed by the government, but the government is kept in mind by the people. If the government isn't doing what the people believes, then the government is not impacted by the people. The people then rise up to go against it. But the Second Amendment is a right of the people, as I was saying, and I believe that almost everybody, I'm going to put it that way, almost everybody should have the right to own guns, and the only people that can't are those that are criminals who have committed a violent crime or a serious crime. And so here I have Georgia Innocence Project, and the reason why I say serious or violent crimes is because of this. And it says, studies estimate that between 4 to 6% of people incarcerated in US prisons are actually innocent. So it's not a really big number, but that's 4 to 6 people out of 100 of every single case that they have that aren't actually guilty. And so that's why I limit it to like my thinking of you have to have committed a severe crime. Like if somebody went into a school and started shooting it up, obviously I don't think they should have a gun ever again because they have something wrong in their head. But and so me saying this, the government kind of already has this in its writing and stuff. And I got this off of one of the governmental pages. It says, "It shall be unlawful for any person who has been convicted in any court of crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year." So if you go to prison for over a year, then you can't have a gun. So I'm going to talk about the general welfare of the U.S. And I said, why am I not covering gun violence? Because, I mean, less guns equals less gun violence, less murder from guns. I mean, to me that's basic math, that less guns equals less gun violence. But what about all murders in general, all crime? Is there a decrease in that? I don't think so, because people are just going to start moving to knives, swords, and baseball bats. I mean, and other things like that. If they find an axe around, they're going to pick up an axe. But, I mean, if people want something, they're just going to do it, and they don't have to live in fear of people with guns, because guns have been restricted. But that's like if that ended up happening. And so, think about your grandma or a child. Can they be like Eddie Hall, or I see that picture didn't actually end up working. That's okay. This was Kerry Rhodes. He was a running back. Don't remember exactly which team he was on, but I pulled up 3 different more popular people. This guy, Israel, he is a UFC fighter. He has had 24 wins and 2 losses. So, could your grandma or a child beat one of these 3 people? So I don't think my grandma could, to be honest. But the fact of the matter is, I don't even think I could beat one of those 3 people. And so having a weapon on me, having a gun, helps me to protect myself from those 3 people. And so, or anybody else in that matter. But I believe guns are in fact necessary for protection. And so that could mean protection in my house, could mean protection on the street, because if somebody just comes up and is like, "Give me your money," I mean, 6 minutes? Okay. So, if I didn't have guns, it would then become self-defense as survival of the fittest. I would have to then fight them in hand-to-hand combat, instead of being able to just point and click. So, I think guns make it a lot easier for self-defense. And criminals are going to access them anyway. If we look at China down here, now China, I think, allows these 4.9 people to have those guns, but there's still 13,410 murders. And I couldn't really find anything that said exactly how many murders are by guns, but guns are still going to be there no matter what, no matter where, no matter what you do to protect against them. They're still going to happen because criminals want them. So, and those are my works cited for that.